Dans le sud de l'Espagne, au temps où l'Espagne
In southern Spain, time where Spain was under Muslim rule, there were two men living in the same place. The first, a poor peasant, uneducated in the heart of war, has spent his time creating solutions to try to drive the Arabs out of Spain, while the second, the Marquis of Almeria, a man of noble condition, passed on his ode to care for his vast domain. The humble peasant, therefore, imagined all sorts of assumptions and was developing techniques to liberate Spain. However, most proved to be useless, and those that would have been useful had been systematically rejected by the officer of the King of Aragon to whom they had been proposed. Who does this stupid peasant love the Marquis of Almeria, who constantly mocked him? Its really ridiculous attempts are as ineffective as each other. Many of the friends of the Marquis mocked also the peasant. He tried everything and nothing works. He even wrote a book, scoffed one. It seemed they may be interesting, but who would read them written by a peasant? Time passed, and the farmer died without being able to achieve any of his designs. All had failed. Nothing worked properly. The peasant had spent his whole life to a project that was never completed. How sad! Then the Marquis liked to quote the peasant example of stupidity to all his guests. Himself had no wasted his time. He was even rather good care of his business, and his family enjoyed a serene life. King John of Aragon came to die, and a new King Ferdinand sat on the throne. The latter is united by marriage to the Queen of Castilla, and finally the Arabs were driven out of Spain. Someone brought the new king the story of the humble peasant and explained how all he had imagined projected without any result. A lifetime of deprivation, dedicated to the defense of Spain. How can he did such a thing? Wondered the king. He asked to be brought to him written books by the humble peasant in his lifetime. The king and his court were amazed. If you had lent attention to what the peasant has written, it is a long time that Spain would have been released and tens of years would have been earned. Yes, the books were in fact strong and full of interesting tactical intelligence. Interest, Alcide, the great commander of the king's army of Spain, knew the warlike techniques mentioned in these books. He had himself applied, and this is how Spain had been released. Why so? No one had supported the humble peasant. First, because he was a farmer. Secondly, and sadly, many other tactics developed by the peasant have been ineffective. But what was doing the Marquis during this time? Is not his primary function to protect the borders? Asked the king. He was taught that he had to spend his lifetime making fun of the peasant and his useless attempts. He had read his book, but he had never lifted a finger for more help. He had no time to lose. He was so busy otherwise. The king, in his rush, revoked the marquis, and all his descendants were rejected out of the principality. The humble peasant, meanwhile, was honored posthumously of the title of marquis, and his family blessed the determination of a father who had spent a useless life in service of the nation. What is the moral of this parable? Some Christians and pastors sometimes feel they have labored in vain for a lifetime. Others mock their vain efforts, but do nothing constructive during that time. As the saying goes, the dogs bark, but the caravan moves on. Pastor, trust in God, who said, "Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, working better and better to the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord." 1 Corinthians 15:58.
se moque de ce gosse